This is QTV News. I am Mariatu Sidibe and thanks for joining us. First, the headlines. Today is World Diabetes Day and we hear how the illness impacts this country and how the day was commemorated here. 3 victims of former President Jammeh's witch hunters gave testimonies to the TRRC about how their lives were turned upside down by the witch hunt. As it is announced that the long-awaited draft constitution will be published tomorrow, we report on a stakeholder workshop which discussed the likely contents. The ECOWAS Regional Competition Authority held a press briefing to update all their roles and functions. We were there to find out. Finally, it has happened. The Gambia has overcome Angola in a competitive football match. For more on these and other stories, stay tuned. The Gambia Diabetes Association, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, on Wednesday commemorates World Diabetes Day. The event is aimed to raise awareness on the condition of millions of sufferers around the world. This year's theme is Diabetes Concerns Every Family.
Diabetes is a disease in which the blood glucose or the blood sugar of the individual is high. There are different stages to the disease, including type 1 diabetes, which prevents the body from producing insulin, while type 2 stops the body from producing insulin and from using insulin properly. Globally, 600 million people around the world suffer from diabetes. The Minister of Health says globally, over 400 million people are currently living with type 2 diabetes. He further explains the harmful effects of type 2 diabetes.
Diabetes can lead to life-challenging complications. This includes blindness, amputation, kidney failure, impotence, hypertension, heart attack, and stroke or coma.
The Deputy CEO of Carnifil Municipal Council says diabetes, like many non-communicable diseases, is increasing and more efforts is needed by the government, NGOs and private sector, amongst other institutions, to combat the illness.
The municipality will create recreational facilities like parks to encourage physical activity within the people of the municipality in order to cut down the prevalence as well as prevent or delay complications from the disease.
Omar Baji, Program Manager for Non-Communicable Diseases, says diabetes is a lifelong disease and there is no cure for it. He added that every month the number of patients in the Gambia operated on and amputated increases.
That every month we do have 9 operations due to diabetes, and those 9 operations, 6 of them ended up being amputated. So we have a lot of amputations. So 6 amputations every month. In a year is how much? 6 by 12, I think it's around 72. So in next 5 years, how many people? So we are seeing a lot of them, and those are permanent conditions.
Fatima Mendy, a type 1 diabetes survivor for 9 years, urged the government to help them by establishing a diabetes center.
At least a diabetes center where we can meet, discuss, organize workshops, get our medications, and not always going to hospitals to join long queues. We need all children living with type 1 diabetes to be under one umbrella body. To also have nurses, professionals on diabetes management.
Roland Schindler, a philanthropist, sponsors the patients with insulin, glucose machine, and strips, amongst other medication. Certain factors increase the risk of diabetes, which includes obesity, tobacco use, and high consumption of alcohol, amongst others. The signs and symptoms of diabetes include frequent urination, excessive thirst, mental confusion, amongst others. Reporting for QTV News, I am Mamjara ACC.
3 victims of the 2009 witch hunting exercise on Thursday appeared at the TRRC. Therese Gomez and Sona Bass, both from Makumbaya, explained the torment they went through after drinking the concoction administered by the witch doctors. The daughter of an ex-police officer also narrates how his father's career was ruined by the actions of the witch doctors. Babkar C has the rest of that story.
Therese Gomez, a native of Makumbaya, was the first to testify on Thursday. A widow with 4 children, she recalled the incident when people claiming to be sent by former President Yahya Jammeh picked her from her village. Ms. Gomez said she and other captives were taken to a residence in Kotu where they were forced to drink a concoction.
ñu naanal ñoonu nag ñi nga xam ne dañ nekk force génne leen waaye soo gisee nuñ leen génnee boobu sa suma fit bi ne res parce que luñ ñëwee dama ragal.
So they took the first group and they gave them to drink, but the way that they came out, the manner in which they came out made me to be fearful.
Parce que dañ ekkati yoon ñooñu comme niiw yi ñoo tëddal leen.
Because they carried them like dead bodies and placed them on the ground.
She said the concoction wasn't pleasant at all, and after a few minutes her vision started fading. She said they were undressed naked and bathed by men in red attire. After feeling dizzy by what they were made to drink, Madam Gomez said they were severely tortured by their captors, which she alleged caused the death of 2 people. Since then, she said she and her children have been stigmatized by the villagers as she was called a witch, and her family had also abandoned her. Next to appear was Mam Jara Jata, whose father, Kumba Jata, an ex-police officer, was also accused of being a wizard. Mam Jara told the commission that her father was a strict man who loved his job to such an extent that some people labeled him as a wicked police officer. She confirmed that her father had many jujus, which was a means of protection but not to harm anyone. On the witch hunt exercise in 2009, Mam Jara Jata recalled her father coming back from work late at night with all his jujus having been taken away by the witch doctors. She said her father went back the following day to collect his jujus at Baba Job's house at Kotu, but he was made to drink a concoction. After his release the following day, she said her father could not walk or talk for days.
My father, in his strength, was a very strong man.
Ponkal.
Very hefty.
Ñu enu ko comme riir.
They carried him like a baby.
Di ko dugal ci biir kër bi.
Bringing him inside the house.
Mënut a wax làmmiñam bi bañ.
He couldn't speak.
Làmmiñam bi diis.
His tongue was tied. He couldn't speak.
Dama jooy bu ma ko gisee.
I cried when I saw him.
Since then, Mam Jara said her father's health deteriorated. He lost his memory and was roaming the streets. Presently, she said her father can't even move, eat, or do anything by himself. The final witness was Sona Bass, a native of Makumbaya village. She was also among those forced to enter a bus en route to Baba Job's compound at Kololi. She recalled the day she was taken away after coming from the bathroom half naked. She alleged that she was also made to drink the concoction, but her worst nightmare was when young boys bathed her after undressing her and other captors.
When we were about to board the vehicle, they undressed us and they washed us. How could a man bathe a woman? That is what makes me confused.
Madam Bass said since she drank the medicine, that was the last time she slept or had peace in her life. She also claimed that 2 of the detainees later died as a result of the beatings and the concoction they were forced to drink. Babukar C, QTV News.
A 2-day multi-stakeholder workshop on key legal processes on constitutional and electoral reform process was organized by Think Young Women in partnership with Law Hub The Gambia. The meeting discussed the 1997 Constitution and debated the proposed draft Constitution ahead of its submission to the President. Mamjara ACC reports.
In 1965, the Gambia adopted a new constitution as it gained independence from British colonial rule. That constitution, under the leadership of ex-President Jammeh's authoritarian rule, was suspended and a new constitution adopted, which was amended 52 times. After his departure, the new government embarked on a complete renovation of the 1997 constitution and adopted the Constitutional Review Commission, TRRC, to draft a new one, based on wide consultations with stakeholders. In keeping with this, Think Young Women, in partnership with Law Hub the Gambia, organized the event to discourse and comment on the 2020 constitution that will be submitted to the president. Mr. Tangnabane, founder and editor, Law Hub the Gambia, says it is critical to ensure that public participation after the submission of the draft is preceded by civic education on constitutional principles and constitution-making processes. She added that one of the most important things to look at in the draft constitution is the limitation of the executive powers.
To deal with in the new constitution is in terms of limiting executive power, ensuring and empowering the National Assembly as well as the judiciary in terms of having clear separations of power, but also in a sense as well ensuring that citizens also know about their rights, and as well as the constitution, because I do think that is important, because I mean if there are amendments and so forth and the general citizens are not aware of what is happening, we will just know that there has been an amendment made.
Commissioner Yankuba Manjang of the Constitutional Review Commission says the current constitution that governs the country has lots of amendments.
We make sure that we protect the constitution, that the draft constitution, once it is passed, that the Gambia has a new constitution, how is it being protected? We put in some mechanisms that how can we get into the consultation, for example, with the Gambians, both in the Gambia and in the diaspora, to have their views, but also with the institutions and organizations that are the stakeholders in protecting that constitution. Let it not be only state-centered constitution, but the people-centered constitution.
Madi Jabate, country representative, Westminster Foundation for Democracy, urged Gambians to participate and read the Constitutional Review Commission Act to know what next will happen if the draft constitution is submitted to the president.
That is a draft that our president will not change it. Okay? And that is a matter we need to be concerned with, because that is not reflected in the Constitutional Review Commission Act. What would the president do with the draft? I think that is where the next questions come. When will he send it to the parliament? Will parliament also change that draft? Because that is our opinion. They are too small, 54 people, or one person as president to override the opinions of 2 million Gambians.
The chairman of the Constitutional Review Commission, Justice Suleiman Jallo, announced today that the Commission is on track to publish the first draft of the new constitution tomorrow, 15th November. The draft constitution will be sent to the president and a referendum held to give the people a voice in its adoption. Reporting for QTV News, I am Mamjara ACC.
The ECOWAS Regional Competition Authority on Monday organized a media briefing. The meeting was to increase awareness in the media among the public and the private sector about the agency and its operations. Aisha Jan reports.
The ECOWAS Regional Competition Authority (ERCA) was established to implement the regional competition rules adopted in 2008 by the ECOWAS Authority. The rules essentially aim to promote and encourage competition in ECOWAS markets by preventing practices that prevent the efficient operation of the community markets. The Executive Director of ERCA, Henrietta Didigu, explains the benefits of competition regulations in regional markets.
Economic growth, economic development, businesses thriving, and then when there is competition, one of the effects is this: those enterprises who know that they face competition, stiff competition in the market, are now better able to have rational allocation of resources because they have to be efficient. And when they do that, when they have competition, what happens? They know that there are others who they have to control their prices. They have to make sure that their prices are competitive.
Every ECOWAS member state already has a national competition authority responsible for the monitoring and control in the markets. Like the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection, Henrietta Didigu explains instances of ERCA's intervention.
You may have enterprises that operate in several states. that are colluding with each other to discriminate and keep others out of the markets. There is nothing GCCPC can do under those circumstances. It is only ERCA who has regional jurisdiction. It is only ERCA that can intervene.
Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission, Mrs. Finda Koroma, says one of the important tasks undertaken by ERCA would be the conduct of market studies. She gives further explanation of what it entails.
The studies will focus on enhancing ERCA's knowledge of market operations in specific sectors within the community market, identify competition and consumer concerns in the region, and generally advance competition advocacy. The results of these studies would constitute a valuable resource for policy making and to a large extent would complement the policy documents on which ERCA would ultimately base its decisions.
The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Trade, Honorable Lamin Damfa, says market integration cannot be enhanced without competition regime. He says the establishment of ERCA will further enhance the market liberalization of the Gambian economy as well as attract investment. The principal investigator of the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, GCCPC, Basirun Njai, expresses hope of a successful cooperation in creating a conducive market environment for consumers.
We are hopeful that with strong collaboration between ERCA and member states and adequate coordination, we can help in curbing anti-competitive practices in all regions, in all countries, to ensure that consumer welfare is enhanced for the benefit of the citizens throughout the regions.
ERCA is a specialized agency with adjudicatory and investigative powers that accords them rights for intervention in businesses without a judicial search warrant, as well as impose sanctions to businesses. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aisha Jain.
Football fans are celebrating after the Gambia came from behind to beat Angola 3-1 in Luanda on Wednesday night in the opening game of the qualifiers for the 2021 African Cup of Nations to be hosted in Cameroon. Aliou Cisse reports.
It is the Scorpions' first away victory in many years. Angola were favorites to win the game, being the higher-ranked team and having knocked the Scorpions out of the qualifiers for the Qatar 2022 World Cup qualifiers on a 3-1 aggregate in September. With the return of key players such as Babakar Steve Traoré, Modou Barrow, Hamza Barry and Solmar, hopes were high for a positive result and the team did not disappoint this time. The home side Angola took the lead just 3 minutes into the first half, courtesy of Wilson Eduardo. 17 minutes later, Hassan Cisse alias Torres leveled for the visiting Scorpions with a thunderous header from Modou Barrow's brilliant cross. The FC Zurich forward Cisse extended the lead a minute later after a goalkeeping blunder by the Angolan netminder. Solmar sealed a comfortable 3-1 win with his strike in the 89 minutes of the game. Fans have been praising the team for the spirited fight and are hoping such performance will continue throughout the qualifiers. The Gambia is yet to test playing at AFCON. The Scorpions are in Group D with Angola, DR Congo and Gabon. Coach Thompson Fade and his charges squeezed through to the group phase of the continent's biggest biannual football competition qualifiers, following their 3-2 penalty shootout victory over Djibouti at the Independence Stadium in Bakau last month. Gambia will host the Democratic Republic of Congo in their second group match next Monday at the Independence Stadium in Bakau. Expectations for that match are sky high following the performance in Luanda. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
We will go with a short commercial break. When we return, we hear how the Gambia Press Union prepares journalists to protect themselves in dangerous situations and how much do we know about watermelons that we consume in vast quantities. Do stay tuned.
Are you traveling to Senegal from Gambia? Guess what? You can now roam in Senegal like never before. Enjoy the most affordable rates on data and your international and local voice and SMS while in Senegal. QCell and Orange have partnered together to make roaming a breeze. Whenever you roam with your QCell line to Senegal, or travel with your Orange number to Gambia, you get to enjoy a new specially discounted tariff on your data and the calls and texts you send locally and internationally. Don't stress about high costs. QCell and Orange have got you covered. Whether it's a quick business trip or a family getaway, you know you're connected anywhere and anytime. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, call 111. QCell, the Gambia's quality network.
Are you a shop owner, retailer, or working in other commercial industries? Customers are looking to buy things every day. Let them know where you are.
Life is sweet like chocolate.
Take part in QTV's marketplace and showcase your business to a large group of potential buyers.
The money is calling.
Call us on 32-444-44 or send us an email at marketing@qtv.gm for more details.
Man, you don't know what I've been.
You can also get in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. QTV Marketplace. Be noticed.
I'm the baddest in my category. Balling like I'm Curry. Shutting down everywhere.
Welcome back. The Gambia Press Union, in partnership with Civil Society Fund of Denmark, on Tuesday began a one-week training of trainers course on the safety of journalists. The training is to enable journalists to identify and protect themselves in hostile environments.
The work of a journalist is to publish, broadcast, and expose, and be the watchdog of the people. Journalists face many challenges such as censorship, political and economic pressure, intimidation, defamation laws, as well as physical attacks. The Gambia Press Union is set to train journalists on safety measures that will protect them while carrying out their functions. Sheriff Bojang Jr., the president of the Gambia Press Union, who was a victim of the Jammeh regime leading to his exile for over 10 years, advised participants to take advantage of the training and to take the training seriously. He added that Gambia is in a transition process and journalists must know what to do in an emergency.
What do you do to protect these documents and to protect your own safety and security? This is what this training, all these factors combined, is what this training hopes to achieve. And the fact that all of you, young men and women, are successful in your applications to attend this training, not just for yourself, but to go out there and train other people.
Laz Moller, a reporter, trainer, and the chairman of Gambia Media Support, says the safety of journalists is important. He added that because of the hindrance and dangers involved in the job, journalists need to know how to protect themselves.
Is to develop safety mechanisms on a level where GPU enters a dialogue with the political parties. How do we cover this rally with the safety considerations of journalists and with the security forces if there are demonstrations process, because it is in the interest of everybody to look after the journalists.
Paul Stephen Prera, a participant, says the training will motivate him as a journalist to deliver. He adds that his fellow journalists must know how safety precautions as to protect themselves in terms of conflicts.
When you know your safety, it will always be your guide and your weapon in whatever you're doing. But just being a journalist and you just get to a crowded place just because you want to get information and forget about safety in your life, it won't help you. But as a journalist, when you have the safety precautions to guide you in any way you might be, it will help you a lot and it will serve as a weapon to you to know where to stand and get that particular information that you're looking for.
At the end of the training, journalists will know how to safeguard themselves in any given situation, either in protests, conflicts, or personal attacks. In the past 22 years, 140 incidents of arrest and 15 arbitrary closures of media houses were recorded. There were cases of torture, illegal detention, forced disappearance, and murder. And 20% of journalists went into exile under the leadership of ex-President Yahya Jammeh. In June this year, the Gambia Press Union launched a $19.5 million project to promote the welfare of Gambian journalists and strengthen the Union for a better quality of journalism and service delivery, funded by the Civil Society Fund of Denmark. Bintu Koka, QTV News.
Before we end this bulletin of the news, let's take a quick look at our main stories. Today is World Diabetes Day, and we hear how the illness impacts this country and how the day was commemorated here. 3 victims of former President Jammeh's witch hunters gave testimonies to the TRRC about how their lives were turned upside down by the witch hunt. As it is announced that the long-awaited draft constitution will be published tomorrow, we report on a stakeholder workshop which discussed the likely contents. The ECOWAS Regional Competition Authority held a press briefing to update all their roles and functions. We were there to find out. Finally, it has happened. The Gambia has overcome Angola in a competitive football match. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you for watching.